Hi, welcome back to Chops Garage, and today we're going to find out how the £100 Micra will clean up. Now, for those of you that are new to the channel, my name's James. I've got a small car dealership, started a couple of years ago, and although I do normal retail stock, we like to have the odd strange one in every now and then. Now, this Micra we got from British car auctions for £100. The thing with this Micra is, it is an automatic, it's a CVT Micra, and it's the K11, which is the model which a lot of people are loving at the moment. So when we saw this at British car auctions, we put a cheeky bid of £100 on it, because as you can see, it is in a pretty poor state. And the other thing about it is, it also, on the clock, has 164,000 miles. Now, when it was in the auction, it had a note to say it had an engine management fault on it. So again, that's another reason we only bid £100 on it, because anything automatic at the moment is worth money. Small autos are worth a lot of money at the moment. But it said it had an engine management fault. So in a previous video, you'll have to go back and watch if you haven't seen before. When the car arrived, I took it for a drive and found that it had no power. It could barely get itself up a hill. It would go nowhere at all, really. You could get it going, but as soon as you hit any kind of a slope, it just started to gradually lose all of its speed. If you got to a serious slope, it became nigh on dangerous, where people were gathering up behind you and causing issues. So we did think we might have a major gearbox problem, but in the last video we were pleased to find, by just changing the mass airflow meter on the car, even though there are no codes coming up on the dash, the code that was given to us from the auction on the dash was actually just the sport button pressed in on the side of the gear lever. Turned out it wasn't an engine management light at all. Someone had just hit the sport button on the gear lever. So yeah, it wasn't an engine management light at all. Flicked the button, sport button in on the side of the gear lever, and that light disappeared. But we still had the issue with the performance. It wasn't right. So obviously, like I say, we thought we might have a gearbox issue, but it turns out just changing the mass airflow sensor, even though there was no codes being thrown by the car at all, has made a world of difference. Now we've taken it for a run and we realise that it actually does run really quite well, and there is a lot of interest in this car. I must have messages every day with someone wanting to buy this. I think it's about time we honoured the little Micra with a proper clean-up. Now at this point, some of you could rightly say, as a car dealer who makes his living from selling cars, who has an awful lot of stock, normal retail stock, that needs preparation, what are you doing spending your time on a Nissan Micra with 165,000 miles on it? Well, I don't think that's right. I don't think this car really has done 165,000 miles, and I'm going to prove it to you using today's sponsor, Car Vertical. Those of you who don't already know who Car Vertical are, and I don't know how you couldn't, because all of us automotive YouTubers are using them to check our cars, Car Vertical has the largest online database of car information available. And it's an absolutely essential service to use before buying any vehicle. So if we run the Nissan Micra, we straight away get a few of the main headline points. The mileage doesn't seem to have had any fraud issues. It doesn't show any theft, but it does show that it had an accident. It shows there's no finance outstanding. Now, I'm not sure. I was told this car had an accident. I need to pop back on to my BCA account and check. I record it being faded and having the high mileage, but I don't record them saying it had an accident. Now, if we scroll down through spotted activity, what I'm looking here is for change of ownerships, and this will make a bit more sense for you in a minute. We've got the MOT tests coming up. And then we see the first change of ownership in 2018. Then we see another change of ownership in 2019. So remember that, 2018 and 2019. We go through the rest of the report here saying it hasn't been scrapped or seized or used as a taxi. We've got a report section here for checking whether the vehicle's been stolen. And it's not only in the UK, it's in a lot of Europe as well. But then we get to this, the mileage report. Now, this is why I don't think this car has covered this amount of mileage. If we go back to the beginning, we can see this car was only actually doing a few hundred miles a year, right the way through to 2014. But then it jumped to 145. Now, there was no change of ownership in 2014. We've seen that from the report. So it isn't that a new owner picked up the car and started doing mega miles in it, because after that point, we see that it continued to then go back to doing just a few hundred miles again. And the change of ownerships were between 2018 and 2019. During that period, again, there wasn't any mega increase in use of the vehicle. It jumped a bit here, but it went back to doing a few hundred miles again. So I'm not sure what's gone on. It's either had a clock change. I don't think someone's misread the MOTs, because the car actually reads 165 odd in the dashboard. Now, if we scroll down to the accident section, it says there was a Category D write-off in 2006. So again, that doesn't tally in with the change of ownerships or the jump in mileage. So the accident was done very early on. Now, in this case, we don't have any pictures of the damage, but in more recent write-offs, you'll find that Car Vertical can often actually give you images of the damage. Let me show you an example. Check this report out for a BMW 5 Series. Right away, we can see, like the Micra, there's a flag for an accident there. If we scroll down, we can see in the damage section, not only does it tell us it was a Category D write-off, but it tells us the areas that were impacted in the accident. And if we go down further still, it'll actually show us images of the damage. So you may well be buying this car as a cat car, but no one's providing you with any information as to what the actual damage was. Well, you can see here, it's quite a serious impact. You might be told it just needed a headlight and a bumper. Or a private seller doesn't actually need to tell you whether the car's been in a category accident or not. So you can see that this is an essential check to do when you're buying any vehicle. The great news is that Car Vertical have given Chops Garage viewers a discount code for the first Car Vertical report. You'll find it in the description down below. I'd like to thank Car Vertical for being a continued sponsor of Chops Garage. There's a few other clues that this car can't really have done that kind of mileage. Look at the seats, 165,000 miles and the seats are like that. That should have been worn right through on the bolster there, shouldn't it? Door card, other than a bit of grubbiness over the handle there, that's all in really good condition. All the seats are in fantastic condition. In fact, the interior is better than a lot of much lower mileage cars and much newer cars I've had in. Look at the steering wheel, 165,000 miles, and all this hasn't worn out. The top of the automatic stick hasn't worn at all, neither has the handbrake lever. All the switches still have the white on them. If these are being constantly handled, that should have worn out by now. Now you'll notice the two lights on the seat there. That's a generous gift from one of our subscribers who's had a number of these little Micras and has given me some lights, well, to replace. Actually, I only need to replace one, this crap one at the back here. What we're also yet to do is actually jack this up and have a look underneath, because these are renowned for getting a little bit of rot as well. But because I'll get no sense of satisfaction from doing that first, I'm going to get cracking with the cleanup. Now, because the bodywork is particularly grimy, we're not going to use a car shampoo today. We're actually going to use Autosmart's G101, the famous cleaner that everybody uses. Now, I don't recommend this for paintwork because it can be quite aggressive stuff, but the paintwork on this car isn't great anyway. But this is going to cut right through all the heavy dirt and give us a much better surface to then machine polish afterwards. But what I will be doing is rinsing each panel afterwards to make sure I get all of it off and don't leave any of it sitting. But you can see straight away how the G101 cuts right the way through this dirt that's been on here for a very long time, I would have thought. to see the difference in the colour already, and this means the machine polish isn't going to pick up grit and dirt and create scratches, because all we're trying to do is remove oxidisation. If we leave the dirt on there and start machine polishing, we'll be putting scratches into all the bodywork. So wet part of the cleanup's done. She's already looking a little bit better. Got a lot of that algae and stuff off. It won't deal obviously with the faded paint here. That's what the machine polishing will be done. Seems like the sun's going to stay behind the clouds, so we'll be safe to do some machine polishing out here. May well do it while it's still wet. I'm not worried about throwing compound everywhere, because we're probably going to get another wash afterwards. So we just get cracking on that. We're just using a cheap random orbital polisher, or is that dual action? Might be dual action. A fairly foam orange pad. We've got a Farcel fabric one here as well. We'll see which one's cutting better, and we're going to use quite a coarse compound on it. I use the G3 scratch remover because it's a bit coarser than the normal polishing compound. We might go over with a lighter compound afterwards, but a lot of these areas, you know, like the bonnet, need quite a lot to come off. And like I say, well, I'll find out which head's working better, and then we'll stick with that. Just started spitting raining actually, but that'll be good. It'll keep the panel cool, to be fair. I'm not going to say I'm a professional this, by the way. If you want to know exactly how to do this kind of detailing, you want to go and find some of the detailing channels, which are the experts. But we'll start off slow and then build the speed up once we aren't flinging too much compound around. Now, it may come as no surprise to many of you that hasn't really made a lot of difference. It's still faded, it won't polish up. I have tried wet sanding it and then compounding afterwards. All I'm able to do is get rid of some of the darkness here. I've not come across this kind of damage to paint before. I'm not sure exactly what the issue here is, whether all the lacquer's gone and this is the colour and the colour's just completely gone now. Obviously a respray is what's really needed. But we're going to try something a little bit radical. It was suggested to me by a subscriber who saw me using a product for one purpose and said it could possibly be used for another. And it's this Outro, not sponsored, it's just something I've been using recently. It's supposed to recolour bumpers for plastics, but someone suggested me to actually, it's quite good at refreshing faded paint. I'm a bit dubious. Should we have a little see? Now obviously I need to clean the rest of the bonnet. I'm just going to try this section here and see whether it makes any difference or not. I guess what we're effectively doing is kind of varnishing it really. This will need wiping off afterwards. But if this works, I imagine I should have bought shares in Outro before this video goes out. But the subscriber suggested that this is what he uses it for all the time himself. And as an oil, I guess it could sort of feed back into that paint a little bit. And obviously you could clear lacquer over this, would be another solution. But this is a proper budget little toy, isn't it, this car? So what I'm going to do is leave it on there while I polish the other side, and I'll leave it on there for about 10 minutes, and then we'll wipe it off and see what the end result is. Goodness knows if it does work how long it actually lasts. So I wiped it off. I'm dubious about that. I mean, yes, it's got more shine to it and it would probably repel water, but I think probably like a sealant would probably do the same thing, to be fair. Anyway, I'll finish off the rest of the bonnet and we'll see. So we clean off the other side. We'll try some of this Auto Glim extra gloss protection. To be honest, I don't think we can do anything. I think what's happened is the lacquer's gone. That's the colour underneath the lacquer. This is the colour on the top. It's been totally bleached out by the sun, and I think it is what it is. I don't even think throwing lacquer on it would do any difference, because it is that colour now. That's the colour of the paint, but we'll see what this does. So I had to move it inside because the rain started to get a bit stronger, and here's the difference. That's the Outro side, and that is the, what was the product we put on that? Autoglym, wasn't it? Sealant. Did nothing. So although that still isn't great, it seems to be a better solution than the actual sealant product. I can only assume it's because this sort of unfinished paint is now absorbing whatever you put on it. So if you're putting on white products like the compound, it's sucking that white in and making it look worse. Whereas the Ultra is an oil, it's soaking in, it's bringing a little bit back onto it. So looks like I'll do the rest of the bonnet with that. I hasten to add, I am not recommending for everyone to do this. It's not something that the manufacturer lists as a use of the stuff, and I have no idea how it could react to other paints, so I am absolutely not recommending it. I just thought I'd give it a go, and for me, with the value of this vehicle and the state it's already in, I don't see that I could do any much worse to it really. Now we're going to use the Ultra for its intended purpose, tarting up the plastics. Now I was very tempted to go black with these plastics, repaint them, but now I know that I really can't bring up the rest of the paint. There doesn't seem a lot of point. They were grey originally anyway, not black, and there seems to be a lot of interest in this car because of its kind of cult status, as I said earlier, and I think that's still going to be originality. So I think that if I start making things black and painting them with products rather than leaving them in their natural plastics, I think I'm doing more harm than good. So we're just going to go around and get the oil onto these plastics, refeed them a bit, and see how they come out. Now for the rest of the body work, I'm just applying some turtle wax now. I'm not going to cut into it anymore. I don't think it's going to bring me any real benefit. Some of the paint here is actually quite a nice colour, and with just a bit of wax it's coming up quite nicely, so we'll just give it a coating of that, and like I say, treat the rest of the plastics, and I think that'll be about as far as we can go with it. Well, there we have it guys, the rain's gone, so I've pulled her back outside again. I can't say it's my biggest transformation yet. Those of you that watch the channel regularly will know I can normally turn a car around quite considerably. Definitely if I got the rattle cans out, I would for sure. Look at this side. This side of the car is really good. Clearly it was parked with that side of the car into the sun, because this side of the car is actually really quite clean. It's polished up nicely. So yeah, you would have to, like I say, start spraying to turn it round, and for someone that might be worth doing. For me, not. I think this is the end of the journey for the Micra with Chops Garage. I can't really see there's an awful lot more I can do to it that's going to make business sense. I think it just needs to go to someone who's just going to enjoy a little run around now. Comment down below, what do we think the value of the car is, and what do you think I should do with it? You got any other ideas that I should do for it, or is it just a case of moving it on? Anyway, that's the end of the video. Thanks for watching everyone. As always, massively appreciated. Are you subscribed? If you like this kind of thing and you're not subscribed, you might want to hit that subscribe button down below. It doesn't cost you anything, just gives you notifications when new videos come out. And if you can give the video a thumbs up down below, that will suggest it to other people who've got similar interests to yours. Very likely the next older car that we get playing with is the Jaguar we picked up from the house clearance. We've got some new parts for that to go on. But there is, I'm told, some forward progress in registering the Diane van in the UK, so hopefully I shall be able to start working on that, obviously in between doing the normal day-to-day trading. So if you'd like to hear about car trading as well, then this is the channel for you. But for now, I think the MGB's got to go back inside. I've used that for a few days, and I think I shall be going home in the Ignis Sport because that car is just stupid fun. Anyway, thanks a lot. Catch you later. Bye.